Yo guys, it's Arcade and today I'm gonna show you how to make breakdowns and build-ups. So if you are still bad at making this, you won't be after watching this video. So let's get to it. Also, this video is brought to you by Skillshare, more on that later. So, breakdowns, the part of the song that comes after the drop and should be sort of calm, have some melodic element, and then it transitions into a build-up and then the drop comes back in. So I have the drop already prepared from my previous video on how to make powerful future bounce, and it sounds like this. You get the idea. If you want to watch that video, I will link it in the description below. But it is also important to have the drop ready, because the breakdown sort of correlates with the drop. But you can also make the breakdown first if you want to, but then make sure it connects nicely to the drop. So the first thing I want to do is to sort of set up the arrangement of the breakdown. And the way we're going to do that is go over to where we want the breakdown to start, which is right here, and press Alt and T. Now you can set up a marker. So this is going to be called break. And it's going to be 4 bars. Then I'm going to add another marker. We can just right click on this, add marker, breakdown 1. This is going to be 8 bars. Then we're going to add another one, breakdown 2, again 8 bars, and then build up, again 8 bars. And then we have the drop come back in again. So this is our breakdown arrangement, and it goes like this. So this is the break, which you don't have to add if you don't want to, but in a lot of EDM songs it's actually really nice, and it helps DJs like connect the two songs together as well. So I already set up the break here, and it basically consists from a lot of impact samples. So we have this one, then we have the sub drop as well, then we have exhaust, reverse crashes, and then more reverse crashes here. So a reverse crash, high impact, another exhaust. That's what we have, and also this effect, which is just sort of a background ambience effect, and that's actually really nice to use in a breakdown itself. So this is how we get started. The drop ends, and then there's a big hit, and then a reverse sweep going up, and then the actual breakdown happens. So this is how it sounds. So yeah, we are building up tension at this point. That's the purpose of the little break. So now for the breakdown. So there are several ways you can start, either by doing the effects first, doing the composition. So this time I'm gonna start with the effects first. In a lot of EDM breakdowns, the effects are more or less the same thing. Of course, you can experiment with different ones and try some new things, but you can stick to the basics for now. So I'm gonna add in the effects by magic, and then I'm gonna explain what they are. And here they are. So yeah, these are the effects that I'm using in this song. So let's go over them really quickly. It's pretty much similar from the break. So we have again some impacts, and you want to make sure to repeat these, you know. So I have the break, then the breakdown 1, impact hits, and then the breakdown 2, impact hits again. We also have the sub drop, again breakdown 1, breakdown 2. Then we have more impacts, but little ones like this. So that just sort of builds up this background motion, right? We also have this sound. And you don't have to use this sound in particular. You can use any sound that just sort of creates some motion in the background. It can also be a drum beat. It can be like a percussion loop, something to just sort of keep the background busy. One thing to note is I also put a bunch of reverb on this sound and lower the dryness as well. So it's sort of in the background, and also stereo shaper. So then I also added this techno loop, which is like a shaker. Again, bunch of reverb, lower dryness, so it's in the background. So then we have this. Not much going on, but already that's a really good base for the rest of the breakdown. And really in the breakdown, you want to build some tension, then gradually make it more and more tense in the build-up, and then comes the drop. Okay, so now that we have the effect, let's move on to the more interesting stuff, which is the melodic stuff, composition, sounds. Let's get to it. So the next obvious step is to create a chord progression and maybe add a melody. So for the sound, I'll be using a piano. Piano is a good sound that sort of works in every genre. You can of course go with anything that you want. So the piano I'm using is free. It's from Spitfire Audio called Soft Piano. And it's a really nice soft sound, sort of emotional as well, which is good for the breakdowns. How do we make the chord progression? Where do we start? Well, the best thing is if you already have the drop and some chords in your song, you sort of want to go with the same theme. Just take the chords from your drop. So here's my drop. It's kind of like high tempo, high energy, which we don't want in the breakdown. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so the chords that I'm talking about are these ones. So if we take those and put them on the piano and put that in the breakdown, that would be sort of weird. So let's not do that. Instead, go back to the chords, and what you're gonna do is remove the rhythm. So just like this, remove all the rhythm from the chords, and then press Ctrl L to connect the notes. And then we have something like this. So another thing we can do is remove this rhythm as well, like the offbeat notes. Again, press Ctrl L and move it octave lower. So then we have a piano like this. So I know a lot of you don't know how to make chord progressions and chords. So a really simple tip would be for any beginner is just to go to View, Scale Highlighting, select your key by right-clicking on D and then major, if you want D major. Then we're gonna have D major, and all the highlighted notes here in piano roll are the ones that you can use in D major. So never use the darker notes, only the lighter ones. And then you can build chords and melodies more easily. Another tip I can give you is the chords always have the same shape. So if you choose like G and E, and then to build a chord, you skip 3 notes, put a note on the 4th one, and then you skip 2 notes and put a note on the 3rd one. And that's your basic major chord. So the same shape goes here, skip 3 and 2. But as you can see, this one is on the darker note. That means this chord does not fit in D major. Therefore, you just move this one lower, which will make this a minor chord. You also have the stamp tool here, where you can select a chord. For example, a major chord, and it will show you the shape. So that's how you use the chords. Just make sure the notes end up on the highlighted grid. That means you are in the key that you set up for yourself. So that was a really quick tutorial on how to make chord progressions. But if you actually want to learn more about music theory and music production, check out our sponsor today, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is a platform where you can learn new skills. You can learn so many things, including animation, photography, marketing, and also probably your favorite, music. There are tons of classes on music production explaining everything in detail. And these are not like short videos on YouTube. These can take a little bit more time to go through, but they do teach you a lot more. So whether you want to learn how to play the piano, how to get more streams on Spotify, or how to make beats in FL Studio, you can find this and a lot more on Skillshare. Right now, I would recommend this class by Fernando Arruda, Music Theory, exploring sound, rhythm, and melody on the MIDI grid. So if you want to learn more about music theory, I often recommend this class, and that's because you don't really need a piano. You can learn how to do this in your DAW on your computer. So if you want to get access to this class or any other class on Skillshare, check out the link in the description below. The first 1,000 people who click the link below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. That means you get access to all of the classes on Skillshare for 1 month. And I think you can improve a lot in 1 month. So if you are interested, check out the link below. And now let's get back to the video. Okay, so now we are back and we can work on our chord progression. So here's the piano simplified from the drop chords. Then I also layer it with a choir, also from Labs, which is free again, and it sounds like this. Same chords, and then also a little synth from Nexus. You might as well use a piano, but I really like this reverby synth, and I just hit it with a single note that sort of goes off beat, again to create this atmosphere in the breakdown. One more thing I did with the choir is automate the volume right here. Just right click it, create automation clip, and I automated it like this. So it goes up at the end of the repetition. That just sort of creates this reverse effect almost. You can hear it and it creates this tension once more. So having a lot of these little effects that sort of create this motion, this movement, helps a lot to keep the breakdown interesting. So one last little effect before we move on to the next sound is the reverse piano. So the way you do that, you mute everything except the piano. You can do that by holding Control and clicking on the sound that you want to solo. And I actually like to duplicate it and cut it so we have like more of the decay. And then all you do is go to Edison right here, choose on play, press record, and play the piano hit. Stop this, drag it in your playlist, and reverse it. Double click it, reverse it, and then you have this reverse piano hit. So then you just add it in the break at the end here. We can cut off the very end of it, and then it sort of creates this nice transition with the piano. So yeah, that's a little effect that you can use. It actually helps a lot when creating transitions. This even works well with vocals. So now that we have that, here is our break and then start of the breakdown. And you can hear how all the effects create a nice movement in the breakdown. Next, we have the melody. So again, I'm gonna be using the same melody that we have in the drop. So this is the melody from the drop. But again, you wanna simplify it in the breakdown. So here's how I did that. I just take the first 4 notes from the melody and then leave the space empty, and then the next 5 notes. And I'm using the piano sound once again. I also layer it with a choir as well. Why not? So then it sounds like this. So again, you want to make sure to not like put everything in the breakdown. When it comes to making the melody, you can again use the same technique with the scale highlighting, view, scale highlighting, set your scale to D major or anything that you want, and then just use the lighter notes, the highlighted ones, not the dark ones. When you do this with the chords and the melody, you're gonna make sure it stays in the D major, therefore all the notes will sound good together. But again, I'm using the same melody from my drop. So the last sound I'm gonna be adding in breakdown 1, I'm gonna be adding some synths as well. So I had a synth sound from Nexus, Big Soul Chords, and I actually automated the cutoff, the same that I automated the choir, where the volume goes up. In this sound, the cutoff goes up at the end of every repetition, and it looks like this. Again, just to add a little bit more movement to the whole thing. And this sort of covers the breakdown 1. As far as the effects go, again, I'm using a lot of reverb on all of these sounds. That helps to create this spacious atmosphere, which I like in the breakdowns. So make sure to do that if you want to. And the breakdown 1 sounds like this. And there we have it, the first part of the breakdown is ready. So now for the second part of the breakdown. It should be similar than the first part, but it also needs to like move on to something more. The way I showcase this is by adding drop claps. So drop claps, really simple, just claps with a lot of reverb. And again, this doesn't have to be drop claps, it can be something else. It just needs to add a little something to the breakdown so the listener knows this is the second part of the breakdown. Also in the second part of the breakdown, I put the full melody in. This is a great way to introduce the melody to the listener so they are not surprised or caught off guard by it in the drop. So you sort of introduce a light version of the melody in the breakdown. So I add the melody, but with a piano sound. That being said, I also add the plug melody and the completely full melody from the drop, but, an important but, it's filtered down. So the way I did this is when you have your melody on channel 8, for example, you go to channel 8, add EQ2, you're gonna right click on number 7, choose type low pass, then drag this little dot until it's 4 dots, and then move this all the way to the left, and you're gonna create automation clip, and then sort of move it all the way to the right with the automation clip, which looks like this. From all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top, we have the plug melody and pretty much the whole melody from the drop in the breakdown, but of course it doesn't have all the power, it just sort of goes like this. You can barely hear it. Then a little bit more. And then it stops. So in the breakdown 2, we added the drop claps and the full melody, which gets filtered in. So it sounds like this. And then all that separates us from the drop is the buildup. So let's go to that. Now the buildup is supposed to create the last tension before the drop, right? So here is how to create a buildup. And of course, there's many ways to create a buildup. You can even skip the buildup if you want to. Your imagination is the limit, but like the most simple way is to sort of chop up the sounds from the breakdown. You take the sync chords, you just chop it down to the first chord, and you're gonna repeat that one all the time, pretty much. And then you do the same for the piano, sort of the same for the melody. I'm gonna do it this way. So in the first part of the buildup, which is the first 4 bars, that works. And then in the second one, you chop it up even more, just like this. And as you can hear, I'm automating the cutoff of the synths, once again creating this almost like an up filter, but what you need to do as well is add a bunch of up filters. So I'm gonna just switch to the finished result where the buildup is ready, so I can explain it in a better way. So one thing to note, again, we have a bunch of effects here. The transition from the breakdown to buildup, you should have some reverse sweeps and then impacts in the start of the buildup. And then, you know, the piano, the synth, I keep the drop claps as well. But another important sound is the build-up drums. And it can be like claps or snares. I have a snare fill here. So again, you can find these in a lot of sample packs. When I started, you had to make these on your own. But I actually did make this one. It's from my sample pack. So again, a really short tutorial on how to make this fill if you want to make your own, because some people still do want to make their own. So this one in particular has this underlying snare, which is like this. Remove the swing from it. So this is how you create the build-up drums, right? You have 4 at first. Then you have double, so you just right-click, fill each 2 steps. And then you have like a full line. And what you can also do is like go to fine pitch and do like a pitch effect here. So again, that's a short tutorial on how to make your own snare fills, drum fills, whatever. So this one, pretty much similar as that. So yeah, really important stuff, really useful in any EDM build-up. Like everybody is using this, you can hear it in most of the songs. So make sure to include that. This is our build-up right here. We have the chopped up chords, chopped up melody. And again, I come back with the actual melody from the drop as far as the sound goes and filter it in slowly. because you want to prepare the listener to the actual drop. So you don't want to catch them off guard like with just some random melody out of nowhere. Maybe you do, but if you don't, then use the actual melody from the drop in the build-up, just not in full power, just like slowly filter it in like this. And the last bar is actually the ending of the melody. You know, this is the full melody, and I just put the ending in the last bar right before the drop. And another thing I put in is this fill right before the drop, and again reverse crash and a reverse sweep. And one thing that I did not mention is the up filters. Of course, you want to have a lot of up filters happening, but everything sort of turns off one bar before the drop, and we have this quiet part. So it sounds like this. And there you have it. That is our build-up ready to go. Let's have a listen from the break until the drop on how this whole thing sounds. Enjoy. And boom, there you have it. That's our song ready to go. Make sure to check out Skillshare if you want to learn more about music theory and music production. There's a great class that explains all of this on the MIDI grid, which I really like. So the link is below in the description. Try it out for free. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.